Have you ever stopped, truly stopped, and realized that this moment, right now, has the power to shape not just your day, not just your year, but your next lifetime? The Buddha taught that one mindful breath can plant the seed of freedom, or bind us tighter to suffering. So what are you doing with this breath? If your next life began here, would you be ready? Let's explore the quiet truth behind this moment, and how it creates eternity. You're still here, listening. That means something in you already knows. This moment matters. It's not just a pause between what was and what's next. It is the living center of everything. All the teachings of the Buddha, all the paths and practices, they return again and again to this one truth. What you do with this moment shapes your entire reality. Not just the external world, but the world within you. We often underestimate a single breath, a single thought, a single choice. We assume that only big actions or major life decisions carry real weight. But in the Buddha's view, the subtle, repeated patterns of our mind are far more powerful, because they are what form our habits. And habits, when reinforced over time, become our karma. Think about it. The most important moments in your life, those turning points of clarity or confusion, often came from a single second of awareness, or its absence. A moment when you chose kindness instead of reactivity. Or a moment when you followed anger instead of wisdom. The shift was instant, but the effect rippled for days, months, maybe years. That's the nature of karma. It begins in a single instant and echoes across lifetimes. The Buddha taught that a single moment of right view, of right intention, has the power to cut through countless moments of delusion. That's why mindfulness is not just a practice, it's a gate. A chance to step out of the cycle of reaction and into the field of awakening. Right here. You don't have to wait until tomorrow to start living differently. You don't have to fix your whole past or plan your entire future. All that's required is presence. The courage to meet this moment, exactly as it is, with open awareness. It sounds simple, and it is, but it's also profound. Because when you're truly present, even for a breath, you're touching the very foundation of your future. You're shaping your karma, and you're planting the seeds of freedom. If a single moment holds the power to shape your future, then karma isn't some distant force chasing after you. It's not only something you've inherited from lifetimes ago. Karma is alive right now, in the way you speak, in how you think, in the choices you're making even as you sit here listening. The Buddha was clear about this. Karma is not just what happens to you. Karma is what you are doing with this moment. When we hear the word karma, we often imagine something rigid, something fixed, like fate, but that's not the Buddha's teaching. Karma is not punishment or reward from an outside force, it's cause and effect. It's the natural unfolding of intention. Every thought carries momentum, every word leaves a trace. Every action plants a seed, and those seeds, over time, bloom into experience, whether in this life or the next. So while we may carry karma from the past, the real question is, what are we doing with it now? Are we repeating old habits without question? Are we reacting from fear, anger, or confusion? Or are we pausing, even briefly, to see clearly and respond with wisdom? This is where your power lives. Not in rewriting your past, but in your present response to it. You might carry pain, you might carry regret, but your next thought is still yours. Your next breath is still open. The Buddha called this the freedom of choice within each moment. You can't change where the river came from, but you can choose how to steer the boat right now. And the effects of that choice are vast. A single act of patience when you're triggered can stop years of harm. A moment of compassion can soften a deep karmic pattern. This isn't spiritual idealism, it's practical truth. Over and over, the Buddha showed that even deeply rooted karma can be transformed through mindful awareness and skillful intention. So don't underestimate yourself. And don't postpone your awakening to some future time. Karma isn't waiting for your next life to unfold. It's being written in the small, invisible choices you're making today. And the beauty of that is this: no matter your past, your next step can be one of peace. All it takes is your willingness to meet this moment with clarity. Because that's where the seeds of liberation begin. If karma is created in each moment, then what gives us the ability to create better karma? To plant wiser seeds? The answer is mindfulness. Not mindfulness as a technique or trend, but as a way of being awake in the world. The Buddha called it sati, the remembering of what matters. Mindfulness doesn't just help us feel calm, it helps us see clearly. And in seeing clearly, we become free. When we're not mindful, we live on autopilot. Old habits take over. We say things we regret. We react without thinking. And every time we do, we're reinforcing a karmic pattern, often without even knowing it. But the moment we become mindful, the moment we stop, breathe, and truly notice, something shifts. We are no longer trapped inside the story. We are watching it with awareness. And in that space, new choices become possible. This is the power of mindfulness. It interrupts the momentum of the past. It gives you a chance to respond instead of react. It gives you a gap, and in that gap, freedom is born. The Buddha didn't promise us that mindfulness would erase all our suffering overnight. But he did promise that it would change our relationship to suffering. And that change is the beginning of liberation. Think of it this way: karma is like a field. Every thought, every action, every emotion you send out is like a seed. Without mindfulness, you're throwing seeds in every direction without knowing what you're planting. But with mindfulness, you're placing each seed with intention. You begin to choose what grows. You start to shape the field of your future, not by force, but by presence. And it doesn't have to be complicated. Just pausing before you speak. Just noticing your breath before you move. Just recognizing a feeling as it rises. These small acts of awareness are not small at all. They are the beginning of freedom. Because the truth is, most of our suffering doesn't come from the things that happen. It comes from the way we react. And mindfulness gives us the space to react differently. So if you want to plant good karma, start by being here, not in the past, not in the future, but right now. Let this breath remind you that you're alive. Let this awareness be your guide. Because when mindfulness takes root, even in the middle of chaos, a new kind of life begins to grow. One that isn't ruled by habit, but shaped by wisdom. One that moves not from fear, but from understanding. And that's where true freedom begins. When mindfulness becomes steady, even for a moment, something profound begins to reveal itself. You start to see that the present moment isn't just a place where you happen to be. It's a door, and not just any door, but the only door through which real change, real freedom, can enter your life. The Buddha didn't tell us to chase enlightenment in the distant future. He said it's available now. In this very breath. In this precise second of awareness. Most of us keep waiting. We wait for things to calm down. We wait to feel more ready. We wait for some perfect moment to begin again. But life isn't waiting. Karma isn't waiting. And awareness doesn't need the perfect conditions to arise. It only needs your attention. Here and now. There's a story in the Buddhist tradition about a man asking a monk, "How long will it take me to become free?" The monk replies, "It depends how fully you enter this moment. Not how much you've studied, not how hard you've tried, but how present you are right now. Because this moment is the pivot point of all your momentum. It holds the power of the past and the potential of the future, all wrapped into one unfolding experience." Think of all the times you've said or done something and later thought, "If only I'd paused. If only I had taken a breath." That pause you missed? That was the door. And you can find it again. Not by going backward, but by stepping into this very moment with clarity. And yet, we resist it. The present moment is simple, but it can feel uncomfortable. It's not filled with the distractions of planning or remembering. It asks us to meet what is real, to face our own minds, to feel what's actually here. That can be intimidating, but it's also the most honest, powerful place to be. When you allow yourself to be fully in the now, without trying to escape it, you begin to see its richness. You notice that every breath has texture, every thought has a pattern, every feeling has space around it. And in that space, you find freedom, not because life got easier, but because your mind got clearer. So don't underestimate this moment. Don't overlook its quiet invitation, the door to peace, to insight, to a better life. It's not hidden. It's right here, and it opens the instant you choose to stop running and simply arrive. If the present moment is the door to freedom, then distraction is what keeps us locked outside. In the modern world, distraction is no longer occasional, it's constant. Our minds are pulled in 1,000 directions every day. Notifications, thoughts, worries, plans, regrets. It's no longer just noise around us. It becomes the very environment we live in. And over time, we forget what it even feels like to be fully here. The Buddha warned about this long before smartphones or social media existed. He said that a person with a distracted mind is like someone who is already dead, not because their body isn't breathing, but because their awareness is no longer alive. When we're lost in distraction, we're not living, we're sleepwalking. And the karma of distraction is subtle but powerful. Every time we drift, every time we avoid being present, we reinforce the habit of unawareness. And that habit shapes not only this life but the ones to come. You may not think that scrolling through your phone or zoning out in thought has spiritual consequences. But it does, because each moment of distraction is a moment where you could have chosen mindfulness. Each time you check out of the present, you're allowing karma to run on autopilot. You're not steering the boat, you're just drifting downstream. And no one drifts toward awakening. This isn't about blaming yourself or feeling guilty. It's about seeing clearly. Not all distractions are harmful in themselves, but when they become a lifestyle, they cut us off from our deepest potential. They rob us of the only real power we have, the power to be awake right now. Imagine how many years pass in this way. Imagine reaching the end of your life and realizing you were rarely ever truly present for it. You were alive, but not awake. And now imagine the opposite. Imagine reclaiming this moment and the next, again and again, until presence becomes your new default. That shift doesn't just change your experience, it changes your karma. It changes the seeds you're planting for the future. Awareness is not something we have to earn. It's something we return to. Each time we notice that we're distracted, we have a choice. We can follow the distraction further, or we can gently come back to now. This act of returning, again and again, is the heart of spiritual practice. Not perfection, but presence. Not force, but willingness. And the more you return, the more natural it becomes. Until one day, being present isn't something you do, it's who you are. Once we begin to wake up from distraction, the question naturally arises: where do we return to? What is the anchor that brings us back to presence when the mind wanders again and again? For the Buddha, the answer was simple, immediate, and always available: the breath. Not the idea of breathing, but the felt experience of it. The breath is more than just air moving in and out of the lungs. It is the bridge between body and mind, between automatic living and conscious awareness. In the middle of chaos, the breath remains. When thoughts race or emotions flare, the breath continues. And in that simple rhythm, inhale, exhale, we find a living invitation to return home. That's why the Buddha taught mindfulness of breathing as a foundation for liberation. It's not dramatic. It doesn't require belief. It only requires attention. When you turn your awareness to the breath, you're not just calming the mind, you're aligning with life itself. The breath is the one thing we carry from birth to death. And yet most people never truly notice it. We take it for granted until it's gone. But once you become aware of it, something begins to shift. You start to live from the inside out. You begin to taste presence in the most ordinary of moments. The beauty of breath awareness is that it meets you exactly where you are. You don't need a quiet room. You don't need a cushion or incense. You just need this moment and the willingness to feel it. One breath, fully known, fully experienced. That's enough to break the spell of distraction and invite the mind back to stillness. And here's what's even more powerful. When you breathe mindfully, you are not only calming the nervous system, you are also transforming karma. You are interrupting the habits of reactivity and replacing them with awareness. You are training the mind to respond with wisdom instead of compulsion. Over time, each conscious breath becomes part of a new pattern, a new way of being, one that's more spacious, more grounded, more free. The practice is so simple it's easy to dismiss. But don't confuse simplicity with weakness. The breath is a doorway, silent, steady, and sacred. Each time you pass through it with attention, you are walking into your own freedom. You're choosing clarity over confusion, presence over distraction, life over sleepwalking. And as this becomes a habit, you'll find that even in the busiest or most painful moments, you're never far from peace. It's just one breath away. As you keep returning to the breath, something deeper begins to unfold. It's not just that you feel calmer or more centered. You begin to notice what's actually living beneath the surface of your awareness: old habits, emotional patterns, reactive tendencies. These are the karmic currents shaping your experience, moment by moment. And now, for perhaps the first time, you're meeting them with your eyes open. This is where mindfulness begins to move beyond comfort and into transformation. Because the breath doesn't just lead you to peace, it leads you into truth. And sometimes, that truth includes discomfort. When you're no longer distracting yourself, when you're sitting with stillness, old wounds start to rise. You feel the anger you pushed aside, the anxiety that's been humming in the background, the grief that never had space to be seen. This is not a mistake. It's the beginning of healing. The Buddha taught that when awareness touches karma, transformation becomes possible, not because we fight against our patterns, but because we stop feeding them. When anger arises and you see it clearly without acting on it, you're breaking the chain. When craving appears and you simply observe it, you're weakening its power. It's not suppression. It's not denial. It's wisdom. You're learning to relate to your mind with compassion and clarity, rather than judgment or fear. This meeting point, between awareness and karma, is sacred. It's where your past meets your freedom. Because you're not defined by what arises in your mind. You're defined by how you relate to it. And each time you meet a difficult thought or emotion with steady presence, you're doing something radical. You're refusing to recycle the old. You're choosing not to pass that suffering forward into the next moment, or the next life. There's a quiet dignity in this work. It doesn't look dramatic from the outside. But inside, there's a revolution taking place. You are no longer being dragged by your karma. You are seeing it, understanding it, and beginning to let it go. Not all at once, not perfectly, but breath by breath. And this is how real change happens. Not by escaping your inner world, but by meeting it fully. With love and courage. Mindfulness is not about avoiding pain. It's about opening to what's real, so that pain no longer controls you. And in that opening, karma begins to soften, not because it disappears, but because you're no longer trapped inside it. You're free to respond differently. And from that freedom, a new path begins. And so, as we continue to reflect on the gentle yet profound shifts that mindfulness brings, there's one more essential truth to explore. Freedom is not found in some far-off future or lofty ideal. It arises directly from the clarity and stability of this moment. The Buddha taught that liberation is not something we earn by striving harder or escaping life's difficulties. Instead, it's something we uncover by turning inward, by seeing reality as it is. Without filters, without resistance. Imagine a mind that's no longer pulled in 100 directions. No longer grasping at desires or pushing away discomforts. Imagine a heart that is open, steady, and fearless, not because it has conquered the world, but because it has come home to itself. This is the fruit of being truly present, not in a passive or dull way, but with alert stillness. We stop running, we stop reacting, and for the first time, we begin to respond with wisdom, with compassion. It might seem small at first, just a breath, just a moment of awareness, but this moment is enough. From this still point, your karma shifts. Instead of sowing seeds of confusion, you begin planting seeds of peace. Instead of reacting from habit, you begin to choose with intention. That's the power of mindfulness. It's the power to reshape your future by how you meet the now. As your awareness deepens, so does your understanding that every being is moving through this same process, struggling, seeking, forgetting, remembering, and in that shared journey, compassion blossoms. You stop seeing others as threats or obstacles. You start seeing them as fellow travelers, caught in their own patterns of karma. Just like you, this insight changes everything. It softens your judgments. It dissolves your walls. And in that softening, a new kind of strength arises, not harsh or rigid, but steady and luminous. This is not some abstract philosophy. It's something you can feel in your bones. Something that lights up your inner world. One moment of presence, deeply lived, can shift your entire trajectory. It's not about perfection. It's about returning again and again to what is true, what is real, what is now, because this moment creates lifetimes. And in choosing to be here fully, you're choosing freedom, not later, not someday, but now. And now, having walked through the stillness of this moment, recognizing its power to plant seeds that shape entire lifetimes, we arrive at a choice point, not one grand dramatic crossroads, but the kind that arises silently in each breath. To be aware or to drift, to be kind or reactive, to pause or push. The Buddha never asked us to be perfect. He asked us to be present. And from that presence, right understanding grows. From understanding, compassion arises. And from compassion, true freedom is born, not the freedom to do whatever we want, but the deep liberation that comes from no longer being enslaved by habit, ignorance, and karmic inertia. If you've listened this far, know that this moment right now is a karmic fruition too. Something within you, call it wisdom, yearning, or even just exhaustion with the way things have been, brought you here. That's not random. That's not accidental. And what you choose to carry forward from this teaching is not a small thing. You can choose to rush on to the next thing, or you can choose to pause, even just for a breath, and let this sink in. Because the Dharma doesn't bloom through information alone, it transforms through integration. When you slow down, even for a few minutes a day, and return to the simple miracle of being aware, you are stepping off the spinning wheel of unconscious karma. You are stepping into the life you were always meant to live, not one dictated by old stories, but one written from wisdom and choice. And from there, something beautiful starts to unfold. Your mind grows quieter, your heart softens, your presence deepens, and the people around you? They feel it too. A more peaceful you creates a more peaceful world. That's not just poetic, it's cause and effect. So what now? You don't have to wait for another life to begin again. You've already begun. This moment, this breath, is the gateway. You can bow to it, honor it, and live from it, or you can forget and return to sleep. But the Dharma is patient. It will wait for you. And when you're ready, truly ready, just come back to now. Because this moment creates lifetimes. Be mindful, be free,